A pastor of a huge underground house church in China is being detained by the Communist Chinese authorities, along with a dozen other Christian pastors. How long could these detentions go on, and what's being done internationally, particularly in the U.S., to gain these pastors' release? Here to discuss, Director of the Center for Religious Freedom at the Hudson Institute, Nina Shea. Nina, always so good to see you. Now, last week, police in China detained a dozen of these pastors at one of the largest churches in home churches in what they're calling the biggest crackdown since 2018. Pastor Jin, they call him Ezra Jin, the founder of the Zion Church, is an unofficial house church, not sanctioned by the government. He was detained at his home. Jin is being charged with illegal use of information networks. What does that mean? What is exactly he being charged with here?
He is being charged initially, this is just the first stage, with using the internet to preach. And he refuses to be part of the government's Patriotic Church Association, which is now part of the United Front work department of the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party. So he is a man of principle, and he's obviously, his word resonates, his approach resonates. He has 40 churches in his network throughout China, and that is why he's being punished. I work with his son-in-law.
Yeah, you have a colleague
my
who's
colleague
related.
at the Hudson Institute, Bill Drexel, is married to his daughter. And so I spoke to them about his fate and what's happening.
And what are they saying? What do they know about his detention?
That he has a lawyer. They haven't been able to communicate with him directly. I think his wife has. And they're all Americans, the wife and the children. He is not, he's Chinese. That is Pastor Ezra. And they expect him to go to trial eventually. Now that can take years in China, as we saw, with Jimmy Lai.
Yeah, who I'm going to talk about in a minute. Yeah.
So they think that this is the beginning of the charges. They fear that he'll be charged with something else.
Secretary of State Marco Rubio spoke out about this detention of Zion Church leaders, including Pastor Jin. In an official statement, he said the following: "The United States condemns the Chinese Communist Party's recent detention of dozens of leaders of the unregistered House Zion Church in China, including prominent pastor Ezra Jin." How important is the U.S. State Department's voice in this matter? Does it make a difference? Does China respond at all to this?
It does make a difference. It's very important to keep the pressure on, to keep his case alive, to keep his name in the public sphere. And think about it, Raymond. They're alienating, that is, the Chinese Communist Party, who arrested these pastors, are alienating, thousands, 10,000 or more Chinese people who see them as a spiritual guide, as their leader, and as a beloved religious leader.
Secretary of the Treasury Scott Bessent said the president plans to meet with President Xi of China in the coming weeks. He's doing a tour of Asia. Your thoughts on whether this predicament will be brought up of not only Pastor Jin, but so many of these pastors, even in the Catholic sphere.
And Catholic bishops who are detained.
Who've been house arrested or just disappeared.
Yes. Well, President Trump has raised these cases in the past, and he has a big concern about this. I urge him to raise these names again and not let it drop.
Yeah, there's been a concerted effort. We've seen this in the Catholic area, also among these home churches, a Zionization, a Chineseification, if you will, of religion. What are they doing vis-a-vis these house churches, Nina?
Well, they have put all sorts of rules and constraints on them, and controlling the leadership of these churches, and requiring them to ban all children from their churches, to base their homilies on Xi Jinping's thoughts and Communist Party doctrine, to conform to Communist doctrine. So it's they want to control, and that's why he's been arrested. They want to control every aspect of civic society, including the churches and religion.
According to Reuters, China has 44 million Chinese Christians registered in these state-sanctioned churches. Nina, the majority of Protestant official figures show, but tens of millions are estimated to be part of the home churches, that house churches that operate outside the control of the Communist Party. Are they effectively trying to stamp out these underground home churches the way we've seen them stamp out and destroy the underground Catholic Church?
Yes, I think that they want to eliminate the house churches completely, bring them everything under the control, consolidate control. It's about power. It's about domination of thought and of action and of leadership.
Tell me, how does that Vatican-China agreement that we've been reporting on literally for years, and at times the only outlet reporting this, and you one of the few voices raising concerns, how did that China-Vatican deal that Pope Francis initiated, Cardinal Parolin, who's still the Vatican Secretary of State, was really instrumental in shaping, how has this impacted these home churches? Protestant home churches?
Yeah, well, they have not raised any concerns for what's the fate of these house churches at all. That is the Vatican. They don't talk about their own church,
right,
and defend that. So what this agreement that was signed in 2018 and has been extended throughout the years
right,
by the Vatican, I see it as a legal fiction.
Why?
It's basically a hoax. It's to pretend that the government pretends to give papal power or respect for papal power of an appointment of bishops and give them a say in it. And the Vatican, in turn, pretends that they have a say. But in fact, we've just seen this week with a new bishop appointed by the Communist Party, Bishop Ignatius Wu now, as he's called, recognized by the Vatican this week. Finally, they have...
and he was appointed, we should say, he was appointed during the interregnum between the death of Pope Francis and the election of Leo. Right. The Chinese suddenly announced this new bishop for Shanghai, right?
For Shanghai, the most important diocese to the Catholic Church in China. It was the largest, and this was Cardinal Kung's diocese. Wow. He spent 3 decades in prison for refusing to join the Patriotic Association, as this Pastor Wu has done. So this new bishop is taking the place of 2 bishops in Shanghai who are living right now, who are alive, appointed by the past popes, who are either in detention for 13 years somewhere in the seminary.
We don't know where they are?
Well, we know where one is. He's detained in the seminary for 13 years. He's isolated. He cannot come out. And the other one is disappeared. And he's been disappeared for 13 years, and we don't know where he is.
I have to tell you, Nina, it almost makes you weep, because no one at the Vatican is protesting the detention of actually consecrated bishops who have been sent there by the church, while these Confederates on October 15th, the Chinese just had this dumb show of a consecration of a bishop that I guess the Vatican's just going to allow to happen. There's been no protest against him, and he is the installed bishop now of Shanghai.
It's a Vatican policy of appeasement, and the communists are putting their people into pivotal positions in all the churches, and systematically, relentlessly, and there's no protest, as you say, from the Vatican.
And what's the message that it sends to the people? Because I know there are faithful, still underground Catholics who are having private masses and trying to hold their devotional life together. What message does this send to them?
Well, I think it's going to drive away a lot of Catholics, Raymond, because I think they're going to think that they have to go to party indoctrination sessions in the neighborhood anyhow on a regular basis. Why do they have to go to the Catholic Church to hear a sermon from the bishop or the priests under him based on the Communist Party doctrine?
Wow. No, it's outrageous.
So I think it's going to drive people away.
Yeah.
I think the church is going to wither away, and that's what exactly what the communists want. Yeah, I mean, it's basically, if in 2018, the Communist Party put all the churches, Catholic and Protestant, who are members of this patriotic associations, under the Communist Party's United Front Work Department. This is the main propaganda and surveillance operation of the Communist Party.
I mean, it would have been better, which we had under John Paul and Benedict. You privately consecrate and appoint bishops. You let them quietly go about feeding their flock, and you at least maintain the doctrinal integrity of the gospel of Jesus Christ that I thought the church was here to protect and propagate. But now it seems we're willing to trade that, Nina, and put Xi at the center of the gospel and allow heresy to be spread in the name of Catholicism.
Yeah, and we know the Catholic Church knows how to do underground. We
did
it. We did it in
all throughout the Eastern Bloc.
Eastern Bloc during the Cold War. The Ukrainian Greek Catholic Church really pioneered this. Well, they stayed alive. You know, they stayed.
They kept the faith alive.
The flame. Yeah. Now, the Vatican has never recognized these patriotic associations as legitimate Catholic institutions. No pope has recognized them, yet they're encouraging them to all join that, and then they're, agreeing to the consecration of bishops coming out of there.
Wow. There was a story of Chinese special police raiding a Catholic prayer service during Lent. Do you know anything about this? Worshippers were assaulted. There was a father of 3, I guess, who was in a coma, and priests were arrested.
Yeah, well, that kind of thing will happen from time to time because there is a consolidation of power in Xi Jinping and the Chinese Communist Party. They don't want any activity or organization outside the party. Everything has to be within the party.
Yeah. No, I tell you this, you have to give the communists credit for this. They have a brilliant strategy. It's a global strategy. And they know, kill the faith, kill free media. And if you can kill those things and control it, you can do what you want. And this is what we're seeing. And that opens up, sadly, the story of Jimmy Lai, who is facing a foreign collusion trial that could end in a life sentence. What do you think is going to happen there? The trial is complete.
The trial is finished, and he is waiting sentencing now. And also, I guess, a determination of his guilt. But I think it's almost a foregone conclusion that he's going to be found guilty because the court boasts of a 100% conviction rate, that particular court. And I think that, the man is 77 years old, he's in poor health, he has diabetes, he's developed heart conditions while he's been in prison. Yeah. It could be, any sentence could be a life sentence for him. And so he is another hero of our faith because he stood up for his principles, he refused to bow to false doctrines, and he refused to flee because he wanted, out of love for the other dissidents in Hong Kong, to give an example.
Yeah, even as a British citizen, which he is.
British citizen, lots of money.
He decided to stay. It's unbelievable. Yeah. I have to ask you about what's happening in Nigeria. I know radical Islamists have been just savaging Christians in this land. You sent a letter to President Trump signed by 30 prominent Christian voices, including Archbishop Cordileone, Focus on the Family, others. You want President Trump to do what?
We want him to simply acknowledge that this is happening, that this massacres of Christians, persecution, burnings of churches, rapes of women, mass killings of villagers, of farming villages, by a non-state actor, by these Fulani herdsmen. These are Muslim militants. They carry AKs. They're not the typical herdsmen. Right. And they swarm a village and massacre or drive out everyone. And they're doing this relentlessly, systematically in the Middle Belt where the Christians are. And the government does not lift a finger to help them or to prosecute any of these Fulani. Well, so we want an acknowledgement, Raymond, from President Trump that there is severe persecution.
What will that achieve?
It will achieve moral opprobrium. Helps. They desperately don't want it. They're sending their lobbyists here. The legislators are a team are coming here, a delegation, actually abetting this crime against humanity. Nigeria is the deadliest place in the world for Christians because of their faith, according to Open Doors, a very respected research group. Mm-hmm. Christians are disproportionately targeted and attacked. I mean, they have a lot of terror groups there, Islamic terror groups. Boko Haram, Islamic State is there, other Al-Qaeda linked groups.
But they're all targeting the Christians.
They're targeting the Christians. They also target the Muslims. But these Fulani militants are not considered a terror group. They have not been designated as such by the United States, and so they're invisible. I mean, this issue. There's been radio silence on this issue. The State Department, up until now, and under the Biden administration, has blamed it on climate change.
Oh, I remember that.
And that these are two socioeconomic groups. These are Fulani herdsmen and farmers, and
right.
Farmers and herders are clashing. They don't recognize that these are targeting of a particular religious group.
It's religiously motivated violence.
Yeah,
they
and
wouldn't acknowledge
the
that.
Fulanis come in on their motorcycles, maybe hundreds at a time, with the AKs, screaming the war cry, Allahu Akbar, as they slaughter. And we had a bishop come here from Benue State. Bishop Anagbe came to Washington, testified before Chris Smith's subcommittee on Africa in the House, and he gave this, just searing testimony about the massacres in his diocese. And when he went back, his home village was attacked, and 12 of his relatives were massacred. Weeks later, his office sent me their names. These 12, the numbers are elastic, but I got the names of his relatives, and the head of his Justice and Peace Department had to flee the country.
Wow, this is
because they're targeted.
The crime of this, and we've been reporting on it, but it gets no coverage anywhere else. You'll never see this on the nightly news. You don't see it. Bill Maher, to his great credit,
yes.
mentioned it a few weeks ago.
Yes, and he's not a Christian.
He's an atheist.
Yeah.
Bill is a former Catholic. He's outraged by this, as he should, as anybody who has half a brain should be. In your letter, you say, according to the Catholic Conference in Nigeria, at least 145 priests have been kidnapped, 11 murdered, 4 remain missing since 2015, and 3 churches are devastated every day in Nigeria. Nearly, get the number, 15 million people displaced. Nina, you say the Nigerian government is directly violating religious freedom by enforcing this Islamic blasphemy law. We've talked about this before. Give me a sense of the enforcement, what it looks like. Why are they doing this?
There's Sharia law in 12 of the states there, and they're imposing these blasphemy laws against Christians as well as Muslims, and it carries the death penalty. It's one of the worst, more draconian in the world, actually. Not many Muslim countries do that. That is, have a death penalty attached to it, but they're also indirectly violating religious freedom. By tolerating it, by tolerating the targeting of these Christians for violence and mayhem, allowing that to go on unimpeded, with total impunity. No Fulani has ever been arrested and prosecuted and convicted for this. Wow. And there have been constant pleas coming out of these Christian areas for help from the government, and the president of Nigeria does nothing.
Okay, just to circle the ribbon on this, there are lobbyists, as you mentioned a moment ago, coming from the Nigerian parliament to lobby our senators and congresspeople against designating Nigeria as a country of concern. Why are they so adamant about that, and what influence could a Trump administration pushback have on this situation?
Senator Ted Cruz has introduced a bill calling for CPC in the Senate, that is country of particular concern, designating it as a serious, egregious violator of religious freedom. Congressman Chris Smith, who's the chair of the subcommittee on Africa in the House, he has done likewise. He also has a bill pending calling for this designation. President Trump should immediately designate them as a country of particular concern. There are no mandatory sanctions. People are very worried about the oil, the rare earth minerals in Nigeria. There are no mandatory sanctions under this designation. They could have other policy approaches to calling the president of Nigeria to take action to protect all its citizens, including the Christians of the Middle Belt.
Nina Shea, as always, thank you for coming here, for being so
Raymond.
clear. Look, I know this is a difficult conversation, but this is really why Mother Angelica founded the place, if you want to know. It's to give voice to the voiceless, and God knows these poor people in Nigeria, the Christians suffering in China, they are those voiceless people. Keep them in your prayers. Nina Shea's reporting on the persecution of Christians worldwide can be found at hudson.org. Thank you, Nina.
Thank you, Raymond. God bless you for focusing on it.
Thank you.